As an accountant, there's usually only a couple of ways that we receive a new client, and almost all of those require us, of course, to go through and evaluate their existing books, unless they're just a brand new company with nothing. Now, that process of going through and reviewing their financials, as we call it a discovery review, can be very time intensive, and we've got to really dig in deep to make sure we don't miss anything. So today, we're going to check out an app called Scrutinize. It's an application focused around the idea of bookkeeping file review, whether that's through month end or in our scenario, doing that initial discovery to find the little challenges and quirks inside of the company file before we get started. So stick around, join us for this review of Scrutinize. Hi, Matthew Fulton with Parkway.Business Solutions and QB Community Live, the Facebook group. Now during this video, this is going to be a unique one where I'm going to record my actual first connection, my first, experience with the app. We like to do these as a quick, small video just for somebody who's going to try to get their feet wet. They get an idea of what they're going to be jumping into and what the process is like. If you're looking for a longer, detailed version, there's another video that you can look for that on our YouTube channel, of course. So let's get started and we'll dive in real quick here. So straight from the page, I do like the fact that you've got the opportunity to do a 14-day free trial. Once you set up, click onto that, you'll enter your information in, and I'm going to register. There's two ways to do this. There's either sign up with QuickBooks, so this is where you'd be linking that connection straight to your company file, or creating it this way. I've always found creating a registration independent is usually one of the best ways to go. So we popped over to our email, got our verification code, be able to type that in for us real quick. So now we've basically verified and we can, thanks to LastPass, go ahead and just sign right in. All right, so firm details, we'll put our company into here. And boom. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna choose a client. We're gonna put it on here to select it. And then I'm a QBO guy, so we're going to do our QBO integration. I find it interesting, this upload file. I have to learn a little bit more about what that looks like as well. Do our QBO integration, click next. And then this is going to go through the traditional Intuit integration process where I'm already logged in on purpose to QuickBooks Online, so I didn't have to redo all my name and all that kind of stuff. I can come into here. I'm then going to be able to choose my firm, basically, and then the client that I want to do this for. Click next. Connects makes it super easy. We'll go connect. So super simple process so far just to get started and get the information pulled in. Successfully connected. We'll go next now. And let's see what we've got here. Select workflow and date range. So let's do scope of work. And so this is an interesting part. For scope, you may want to actually do something even further back. So since 365 days ago, last year, good, custom. I would probably, you're going to have to talk with your client, figure out exactly how far back you have to go. You're going to want to do it for a full fiscal year. I happen to know we don't need to go that far back on this one, but what the heck. Let's go from January 1st. To today, of course, and then we'll go submit. And now, so it's going to start fetching the data for us. We'll see, exactly how long it takes. Now, what I've heard from some people is the reporting that you can actually grab out of this is pretty impressive. You can select and choose what areas you really want to be focusing on and what areas you want to export into like an Excel report that we would then share with, of course, our client and talk with them about these are the kind of challenges we found. That's also the information that we're going to utilize to figure out how much time we think it's going to take to go through this. So I'll pause this real quick until we get the results, and never mind, came up that quick, which is amazing. So now I like this. It's got very simple, like step 1, step 2, step 3, which is pretty cool. Come in, let's go open. And so transaction by account, last reconciliation date, days lapsed since it's been done, other ones telling us like details on it. So let's try clicking a little more detail into it. List the number of transactions in the period by the type of account. So as I scroll this down, we've got most of it's in bank accounts. The other would be in long-term liabilities. And it looks like we could, of course, export that also. Let's come back. The extra detail I missed before, so transaction type, different expenses, deposits, checks. This is great because it's always difficult for us to know, like paper checks and such. We can expand it further. Journal entry, the amounts, reconciled dates. You're going to have your transaction count by bank and credit card, transactions by month, so you can get an idea of range. That's great as well. You know, that's one of the things we always look at is if there's a lot of transactions, we know it's going to take more time. So this evaluation helps quite a bit. So that's a good look. We'll go complete and continue. Anomaly by type. So this is one of the most important areas. This is basically, if I'm guessing right, it's going to check and see if there's any gaps within the data, or if there's, well, we can see here like unreconciled accounts, inconsistent vendor coding. So if you have a certain vendor, traditionally most expenses go to one expense account. Sometimes you may have a situation where it goes to two or so, but it looks like this will review it and give you a good idea of what you're looking at there. So inconsistent vendor coding, count to 14, customer coding, so forth. And if I click in, let's see, we've got the counts, the different vendor names that we'd be seeing is what's pulling up from this as well. So we can see like this has been expensed to 3 different areas. So we'd want to review that just for consistency, of course. That's pretty cool as well. Checking, we talked about that stuff. And then transaction type, well, to me, putting all the stuff in, you know, they're not really diving into too much of it. This would be nice. So if you've got a lot of users from inside the company, they're doing stuff, everybody should always have their own access, their own access into it to make sure you can see who's doing what. And this would give us more information as to, you know, if there's challenges, we can really review it further. It's great for knowing who and how you have to train, of course. So vendor profile completeness score, as complete as possible, identify validation easier. So let's see this. So here it looks like we've got a really low amount, and I wonder what that specifically has to do with. You know, so a lot of times if we're just creating transactions, we'll create like a quick vendor display name and a company name, but we don't put a whole bunch of extra information because nobody cares where Chevron's address is, so forth. This is also saying like if you've got vendors, you can clean up the list if they're not being used, very common. Transaction volume by vendor. This happens to be one where instead of creating a Chevron, Arco, everything else, we created one vendor name called Fuel, and it would be able to attribute for all of those, is why we're seeing something like that. So it's interesting that it caught that as well. Again, vendor being pushed to 2 different places. We always know that glorious Netflix, whether it's office expense or distribution, right? Continue. Customers, profile completeness. Same idea, going to go looking through. This happens to be one where the customers, it's not being used to track the customers itself, so we wouldn't expect a high percentage here. If you're using a point of sale, so forth, you would expect that. But if you're invoicing out of QuickBooks Online, then you really want to make sure all that stuff is immaculate, of course. And then your account by account type for your chart of accounts. Makes sense, a lot more expense accounts. Again, going through gives you kind of more of a breakout. AR, AP, aging. So as we can see the different things we're looking at, which is great. No AR in this company file, shouldn't have anything. No AP, shouldn't have anything. And then going into like a P&L, you know, variance. So this is one of the things I always really like to do is you look at a profit and loss and you just kind of look at any changes, anything that's missing, anything that looks out of order, that's not consistent, and it helps you find a lot of problems. I'm sure the balance sheet, we're going to be doing the same thing. So over many given periods of time, it's one of the best ways to really find when you have challenges or things that need to be addressed inside of your financials. So we've gone through that, and I went through it fast on purpose. to get us a basic scope of work report, it looks like. 100% done. Let's see here. And now we have the abilities, because we've basically gone through all of that stuff, right? We can take and export this report. That should drop down for us in a moment. Opens up an Excel file. And we now have, so in this whole setup, we've got each tab for the different things we were just looking at with specific details across the bottom. So this, I mean, talk about a much faster way to be able to get through all of this information. It definitely is a valuable tool for us. I mean, heck, even for business owners to log in and take a look and kind of get an evaluation, see how things are. If you're interested to learn more, be sure to check out our next video. The next one, I'm going to take more time, dive in deeper, and give you a little bit more specific details with it. With so many different applications out there and new ones coming out all the time, it can be very difficult to get out there and try and test every single app that's out in the market. So if you liked this video, if you found it to be helpful, do me a favor. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and of course, we'd love to have you join our Facebook group, QB Community Live. QB Community Live is a group of basically, it's bookkeepers, accountants, tax professionals, and office managers, all focused around the idea that sometimes when you have accounting challenges, you need to get some support from people that actually know what you're doing, get some video responses to actually see how it's done. So it's a great community to go into. You can ask for assistance, get some great support from professionals, instead of reaching out to other support lines that take too long and maybe don't get you quite the answers that you need. If you have additional questions about this app, or even maybe want to suggest a different app we should review, please leave some comments below. We'll follow up, answer, and see what we can do to help there. And as always, we appreciate you taking the time to watch, and here's wishing you a very successful day.